show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's August 17th, 2021. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. And it's taken some detective work, Matt. We're in overdrive in that regard, but we're starting to get some small details bit by bit about the scrimmage on Sunday night. And it started with Rhett Lashley yesterday giving a pretty detailed summation of his impressions of the offensive work in the scrimmage. And it sounded like Coach Lashley walked out pretty darn happy with what he was getting from his guys on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, again, we talked about this. It's you want both to be doing well, not just one to be dominating. So, we'll hear from the defensive coach, one of the defensive coaches, Jonathan Packey, later today after practice. But Manny Diaz didn't really, give much information on the defense, which maybe doesn't mean the defense did well, but it's hard to tell. I mean, he just mentioned a couple players on defense. He mentioned a lot of guys on offense that did well. So it remains to be seen sort of if this was really as one-sided a scrimmage as it sounds so far. But if it was, that's really not what you want in the fall.
Well, we're not hearing any defensive talk at all. And I think that's by design. I think the scrimmage was scripted, and I think it was scripted in favor of the offense, quite frankly, from what I can gather from the different conversations and stuff. Because, you got the Eric King coming back from injury. They're not really allowed to put any pressure on him whatsoever. We have our second blog today with Leonard Taylor, and we talked with him a little bit about that in preparing the blog for this morning. The defensive players literally are not allowed to even tap him on the head. So it's got to be hard to really get after him if you're playing defense, knowing that you got to be really careful. It's kid gloves. And, I think you got a lot of young receivers that are working into the mix. You got young quarterbacks in Jake Garcia and Tyler Van Dyke. So I don't think scrimmage number one was really the time for Manny Diaz to, really ramp up the defense and start throwing all kinds of blitzes and things like that at the young quarterbacks and whatnot. There's two more scrimmages. I would think scrimmage 2 will be a little bit different. I would think that'll be the one where, Manny, really looks to kick it in and go after the offense a little bit more. We'll see what kind of reviews we get after that scrimmage. But it was nice to see still Lashley happy with the progress. Couple notes that we'll throw out. D'Eriq King got 30 plays of work. It's not bad. It's like you watch these NFL exhibition games, and the first team quarterback, I don't know that they even get to 30. I mean, usually they'll go somewhere between 10 and 20 plays. So 30 plays of work for D'Eriq King on the first scrimmage, I think is pretty representative. I think it shows that they're not real concerned with his health, Matt, which I think that has to be taken as a good thing.
Yeah, one of my favorite lines from Leonard Taylor was, rule number 1 is don't touch D'Eriq King. Like, you can't even tag him. Which makes you just picture, like, if I'm D'Eriq King and I want to have some fun, I just start running at defensive guys and make them run away from me, just like that'd be kind of funny.
Just mess with him,
run the opposite direction from him. I would love to see that. That'd be really funny. But yeah, I mean, it's great. The key to the whole fall to me is just having D'Eriq King be healthy, be back to himself. I mean, it's a remarkable story if it's true. I mean, we'll find out against Alabama. Again, he's not even getting tagged down. He already knows every time he moves that no one's going to even come near him. Mentally, they say it's as big a challenge as physically overcoming an injury like this. You're certainly not going to overcome anything mentally when guys on defense are running away from you instead of towards you. So, that first hit against Alabama and how he responds to that is going to really tell us more than probably what we've learned the entire fall, other than the fact that he's healthy, as far as we can tell physically. So that's a huge step forward.
Yeah, and Leonard Taylor in his blog, uses the word like if you go near D'Eriq King, it's going to be a problem. So those defensive guys are on good notice not to mess with the quarterback. All right, a couple other things that stood out to me with Lashley was really just how he was just brimming with happiness about Garcia and Van Dyke. I mean, spoke about those guys in glowing terms. And it's becoming clear, Matt, that they feel pretty good about where they are at quarterback. And this is the happiest, I think, that you would agree, that we've seen whoever the offensive coordinator is going back, quite some time, to Mark Richt and James Coley and this is the happiest, I think, that we've seen the guy running the offense be with the quarterback room.
I mean, I'm not going to necessarily dispute that, other than, I've talked to a lot of coaches, as have you. Some coaches will tell you the good and the bad. Some coaches will tell you only the bad, and some coaches will tell you only the good. Rhett Lashley, from what I can tell so far, mainly tells you the good. Every once in a while, you have to read between the lines to get to the bad stuff with him. I'm not saying he's not happy, but when he says, there are some things that those young guys can still work on, for a guy like Rhett to say that, obviously, and talking about how in the spring the defense didn't throw anything at them, and now they're throwing more and blah blah blah, and they have to learn. And that, to me, when a guy like Rhett says that, that's a red flag to that. Okay, these guys aren't really there yet for this year. Meaning, if Derek has a problem, Miami might have to scale back what they're doing. But for the future, yeah, I'm sure Rhett should be very happy. We've seen these kids; they have all the physical tools. It's just getting them mentally where they need to be.
All right. Well, in our detective work, we did uncover the fact that James Williams had an interception in the scrimmage, and I believe there was one other interception. So we're going to assume those were not by D'Eriq King. That there were a couple of interceptions with the young quarterbacks. So yeah, they're freshmen. There's going to be things they need to continue to work on. But Lashley did seem relatively pleased with those guys. And the other thing that I loved the most, that really stood out to me, was his revelation of his plans to give the young receivers that are shining in these scrimmages and in practices. He's going to elevate their work, and he's going to, in the next few practices and in the next scrimmage, probably he's going to get them out there against the first team defense. And the reason he has to do that, Matt, is because he needs to see them against his best players, because when Miami plays games, they're obviously going to be going against the other team's best players. And he has to figure out, well, are these guys just flashing because they're going against fellow freshmen and walk-ons and things like that? Or are they flashing because they're ready to help us right now? And I'm talking about guys like Jacoby George, Xavier Restrepo, Keyshawn Smith, for starters, maybe even a Michael Redding. Lashley wants to see them against Tyreek Stevenson and DJ Ivey and Al Blades, just to see, have a higher measuring stick of how they'll do. I think it's a great idea.
I mean, I don't think you have a choice. If you're giving up on D. Wiggins and Mark Pope, there's going to be 2, 3, or even 4 guys that have very little or no experience that need to play. So to me, it's as much a sign that they're sort of giving up on those 2 guys and taking away their reps, because Rambo and Harley are going to be guys. So to me, it speaks more to Mark Pope and D. Wiggins maybe didn't step up like they hoped they would, and now they got to try to find some young guys who can make plays.
Well, I did hear that Pope did okay. So Wiggins, I'm not hearing any chatter about anymore. I mean, we've seen him ourselves in the time that we've been out on the practice field. We've seen him drop several balls. So he can't be being considered to be having a strong camp. And he's probably fighting for his Miami Hurricane life right now, let's be honest. Because if these kids show that they're ready to play in this next week of practice, I don't see these coaches holding them back. Like, if Jacoby George is as good as we think he is from what we've been seeing, they're going to feel like they need to play him. Keyshawn Smith, to me, is a potential, I'm not going to say superstar. That might be stretching it, considering he has done very little so far. But this is a kid that can really become a good football player. So, like, how much longer can they hold him back? So I think Wiggins in particular is really fighting for his football life. Pope is going to be on a short leash, no question. And if these guys hold up, then the coaches are going to be more inclined to say it's time to usher in the new era of players at Miami at receiver. And Restrepo makes plays, like Manny Diaz said, every time they go out there, he's making play after play after play. He's been as consistent as anybody on the football team, probably. So they got some tough decisions to make at receiver. And we're going to be watching that closely this week in practice, everybody, because to me, that's the greatest subplot right now on this team is the competition going on at receiver. And so we'll keep an eye on that. All right, a couple other things this morning. The series of the 15 impactful players in 15 days continues with number 10, Nesta Silvera. Matt, we've spoken about this in the past. You know, Nesta is going to make his presence known out there one way or the other, and it's obviously critical for the Miami defense that it be in an entirely positive way this season.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said with Nesta, there's a ton of upside and there's a ton of potential pitfalls because he's just got to mentally be right. You know, he's one of these guys who plays right on that line where, you know, he feels like he needs to create some sort of inner demon almost to play the way he wants, but sometimes it gets the better of him. And he winds up either, you know, doing more than he's supposed to and making a mistake or committing a penalty. You know, we've seen that. If he can get right to that line and just stay there, he's going to be amazing. The key is to do that consistently, you know. So yeah, he's got top 5 potential. You know, I think what we put him number 10, he said, but certainly top 5 potential when he's right at that line and not going over the line and making a mistake or two.
All right, a couple recruiting notes. A story on 2023 local 4-star linebacker Stangwin Clark. You might find that one interesting, just getting to know who some of these future prospects are going to be. The Rivals, the newly reconfigured Rivals 250 will be coming out today. We'll have news on that on the website about midday. We'll be out at practice tonight, and you'll get the usual, you know, blockbuster coverage of practice later this evening. So lots coming your way at CaneSport.com, where you got some big NIL news that we're going to be reporting soon, some good projects going on. Thank you once again to our sponsors, Gonzalez Cartwright Law Firm. If anybody ever has a personal injury situation, make sure you call Gonzalez Cartwright. And of course, the fans at CaneSport.com that have been working with us through our GoFundMe account and helping us get very aggressive and help as many of the players as we can with NIL deals that all are bringing content to you guys on the website. And we've got some good stuff cooking in the next few weeks in that regard. So that's going to be it for right now. For Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thanks for waking up with us this morning. And we'll be at you all day with the Rivals 250 and practice coverage. And then we'll be back tomorrow morning with a new Good Morning CaneSport. So have a great day, everybody.